Mr. Solheim, how would you say the UN Environment Assembly has evolved over the years from when you were UNEP chief? And also, why do you think such a body is necessary to environmental efforts?
I guess the UN Environment Assembly has established itself as more of a recognized body over the years, and it's the #1 global assembly just focused on the environment.
Now, this year's assembly has tackling waste and pollution as one of its key agendas. It considers it one of the triple planetary crises. So the plastic waste problem is something that you have spoken on and campaigned about plenty. Can you tell us more about your work on this and why it matters to you?
Absolutely. I was very proud helping putting this center stage at the global agenda. Look, seabirds are diving down, eating plastic, even feeding their chick and killing them. Whales are eating plastic, cows, camels. Plastic has no role in nature. Adding plastic is an environmental catastrophe for tourist destinations like, say, Sri Lanka or Indonesia, or there's a lot of plastics. No one will want to go there. And added to all that, it's also a health hazard. So for environment, health, and economic reasons, we need to defeat the plastic pollution. Of course, the good news is that as there are 3 reasons to avoid it, there's also 3 ways we can stop the plastic pollution. First, we need to avoid what we don't need, like straws or cups. I mean, why can't we drink from a normal cup? Secondly, we can replace plastic with other products. I mean, if you need a straw, it can be made by bamboo. If you need cutlery, it can be made from wood or from paper or from many other materials. And thirdly, of course, the plastic we do need, say to protect our health in hospitals or to make the cars cheaper and lighter, well, let's recycle that plastic into new products. All this is doable. It's just a matter of mobilizing the political will and the innovation of business.
You've talked about policy gaps, laziness, and also a lack of foresight, and as well as manufacturing consumption system flaws, that's led us down this plastic waste crisis. Is this still your assessment of the world today, of our efforts today? Do you think we've come a long way since?
When plastic was invented back in maybe the 1950s in America, it was seen as a wonder material because we could contain the food, we could save it for much longer. We could protect ourselves against bacteria in hospitals. There were many uses of plastic. But then we started abusing it, overusing it. There's been a lot more attention to this issue. There are thousands, I think millions of people picking plastics all over the world. There have been some massive actions from civil society groups causing action. I mean, for instance, in Sri Lanka, in the midst of the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, young people, they started a zero plastic movement. I told them, you must be crazy because people here have so many other worries. But they said, no, we want to defeat the plastic pollution in our land. And they have been wonderfully picking plastic at the beautiful beaches of Sri Lanka and in rivers for so many weekends after that, contributing to raising the awareness and to, of course, making their beaches clean. So I see so much hope that we'll be able to change our habits.
So at the 5th UNEA session in 2022, a landmark resolution was adopted to end plastic waste, and it said it would forge a legally binding global agreement by 2024. Now, the current UN Environment Chief has called it the most important international multilateral environment deal since the Paris Climate Accord. So this is the year for it. What kind of enforcement mechanisms do you think might be considered to really make it legally binding?
Such a global agreement at the end of the day is much more like a North Star. It helps us navigate, help us set a direction. There's no way you can punish a government who doesn't act. I mean, you cannot send in a military force to enforce the agreement. So let's see this as a morally binding agreement leading the world in the right direction. And then, of course, business and civil activist groups, and beyond everything, governments need to act on that basis.
2023, that was the hottest year on record, and a UN report suggests that we are massively off track to limiting global warming by 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. And Mr. Solheim, we've heard the warning bells sound time and again. So are we now running out of time to turn things around?
I'm quite a lot more optimistic than this view, not because I focus on the global deals. The diplomacy is not very effective. But if you look to the political economy, action taken by states, it's very different. Look, China is now 60% or more of all renewables. Solar, wind, hydropower, electric batteries, electric cars. So China is now leading the world. So very rapid green transformation. And I give the bet China has promised to peak its emission by 2030. I'm quite sure it will happen in 2025, may even happen next year, this year, 2024. So China is far ahead of its schedule.
I want to get your thoughts on the goals reached at the COP28 climate conference in December. Now, it resulted in that historic deal to transition away from fossil fuels. Countries agreed to step up financing for the most vulnerable and also to triple the capacity of renewable powers by 2030. Now, do you think these promises are sufficient? And also, again, we're talking about the matter of delivering on promises. Do you expect enough countries to implement this to actually make a difference?
It's absolutely not sufficient. I mean, the issue is urgent. We had last year horrible wildfires in California, in Canada, in Greece and Turkey. We had the devastating flooding in Pakistan. China experienced drought the year before last in Sichuan, flooding in Henan. There are so many warning signals coming from Mother Earth, so obviously we need to act. But the good news is we are acting, and we are gradually speeding up. China, as I said, is 60% or more of all renewables, rolling out solar and wind at a speed no one thought possible until recently. The price of solar energy is 10% of what it was. Solar is now the cheapest energy anywhere in the world. If you move from coal to solar, not only is it good for the environment, everyone knows, not only it's good for the health, everyone knows, it's even good for the economy. You save money creating more jobs. And that's, of course, why it has gone fairly slow up to now, but now it will explode and go much faster.
Now, if we look ahead to the UNEP, the 6th session, this is going to be the first global meeting on environmental matters since COP28. It's focused on how multilateralism can help us to tackle these environmental crises that we're facing. Why do you think the emphasis is on multilateralism, and what sort of multilateral action are we envisaging here?
To me, that is a no-brainer. If we work together, basically every issue in the 21st century is much easier to resolve. Climate, environment, and pollution doesn't see any borders. We want to bring everyone out of poverty. We want to restart economies after COVID. We want to avoid new pandemics. Or we want to resolve the crisis in Ukraine or Gaza. Whatever is the big issue, it's much easier to resolve if we work together. Everyone knows that, so why don't we start working much more closely together on these big issues for the people of the 21st century? We can all win if we solve climate crisis. We all win if we bring everyone out of poverty. We create a bigger global economy. We all win if we resolve the crisis in Gaza. Well, it will mean security for both Jews and Palestinians. We all win. So let's focus on the win-win propositions rather than constantly looking for win-lose, where I will win and you will lose.
Do you have an optimistic outlook then for this meeting to yield some concrete action, or what do you expect from it or hope to see?
I expect a morally leading agreement which will take us out of the climate crisis, the plastic crisis. Look, whales are dying, vomiting plastic bags. Animals are dying all over the planet from plastic, and we're destroying the most pristine ecosystems by plastic. That must stop. We cannot accept that companies producing drinks or companies producing food are just pumping out plastic products, or that the oil producers are just pumping out plastic products. They must be forced to resolve the problem. That's the polluter pays principle, which we apply in every other area. Those who create the pollution might also help solving the problem. And the assembly in Nairobi can be a major step in that direction towards a polluter pays principle for plastic pollution.
Mr. Solheim, you've said before that the Belt and Road Initiative is a fantastic vehicle for promoting green global development. How would you say the Belt and Road then works to facilitate the multilateralism that we need? And can you give us some examples of achievements?
Belt and Road is the biggest investment scheme in our era, so it's of course enormously important for the development of the world. So this is of enormous importance if you want to go green. And when President Xi Jinping 2 years ago decided that China will stop all overseas coal investment, that's probably the most important decision for the environment made by any leader in the last decade. It's so significant. But of course, what immediately happened was that, well, Indonesia, Pakistan, Kenya, Ethiopia, they all said, oh, wow, China will not invest in coal any longer. Let's invest in solar, in wind, in hydropower, in all the green technologies. And I think that most important here, China can share its experience. How did China win the war on pollution? Look, 10 years ago, I was jogging in Beijing. 2 weeks ago, I happily went jogging in Beijing. The sky was blue, the sun was bright. It was just fun and nice, and you can inhale the air without any pollution. That knowledge and technology China can share with the world. But maybe even more importantly, China should invest in all the green technologies. LONGi is now the biggest solar company in the world. Goldwind is the biggest wind company in the world. BYD is the biggest electric vehicle company in the world. CATL is the biggest electric battery company in the world. In all the green industries, China is now the industrial leader. And that means if they invest in Indonesia, in Brazil, in Europe, well, it will help create jobs in these destinations, but it will also help them going green.
So China talks about pursuing harmony between humanity and nature in its modernization process. What are your thoughts on this?
We need a new concept of how to handle the relationship between humans and nature. President Xi Jinping, in his very famous speech in Anji, in Zhejiang province, he said that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable like silver and gold. That points to the importance of nature to us. Mother Earth will do very fine without humans. If we were to disappear, Mother Earth will do well. But we cannot live without nature. When you pact between humans and nature, which we should embrace. By the way, this is in the old thinking everywhere in the world. I mean, the old Hindu thinking in India, they even made God half animal, half human, like the god Ganesh, which is half elephant, half human, to symbolize the closeness between nature and humans. It is in Christianity, Islam, Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, whatever thinking humans have come up with, they're focused on relationship between humans and nature. And let's come back to that and see humans as one important part of our nature, which we need to improve, not destroy.
Well, Mr. Solheim, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate all the insights that you've offered us there.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.